Happy Monday after an historic Week 5. Seriously, historic. Week 5. It was amazing. Points were everywhere. It's Field and Matthew hanging out with you on the Fantasy Focus Football Podcast. Man, I thought I was having a good day yesterday when I see some of these ridiculous scores. And then I realized, Matthew, so many people had the number of screenshots that I got yesterday with like, wow, can you believe that I dominated my cousin by 150 points yesterday? Yeah. Or can you believe I lost to my wife again by 210 points? A lot of those yesterday.
Yeah, got a bunch of those. It's interesting. So because there was so much record-setting days, it's so many record-setting days, right? So I tweeted out something to the effect of like, hey, because we had an idea for the fantasy show on ESPN Plus coming up later today. And so we had an idea to do something about this because it was so historic. And we were like, hey, I bet you somebody out there, because of when you think about how the draft went, somebody out there has Deshaun Watson, Aaron Jones, Will Fuller, Amari Cooper, and who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting.
Michael Thomas. I don't know.
Yeah, Michael Thomas, something like that. Because when you think about like where those guys
those guys are being drafted,
somebody out there like had that combination of players.
Did you find them?
And so yeah, we found a couple. So, but my point is, so I said like I sent out a tweet that literally said that like, hey, somebody out there must have this combination of players, like these 5 specific players. Send me a screenshot. Hey, your chance to brag. Send me a screenshot of those 5 players and let me see. And we got like, I don't know, 2,000, 3,000 responses. And I'm scrolling through them and I'm like, I got Aaron Jones, but I also got the Eagles defense and like Fournette. Like, not what we asked for.
That wasn't the question.
And then somebody would be like, yeah, man, I got Jones and Cooper, but I left Fuller on my bench. Not what we asked for. Yeah, man, I got like 2 of those and I played against a guy that had like 3 of those. Not what we asked for. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, I'm like, it was fairly simple. Do you have these 5 players in your starting lineup? We're looking for a needle in a haystack here, but I'm sure somebody out there, and we also had an idea of like wanting to see like the guy that had to, or the woman that had to play against those 5, right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about this in the War Room League.
I'm looking at my chops. I mean, I thought I was licking my chops going into Sunday. This is the worst beat of my fantasy football career. So 16-team league, right?
16-team
depth
league
is hard to find.
Sure.
Scores can often be a little bit lower in a 16-team league, right?
Because you're starting guys that barely have a pulse in some of these weeks. Yeah.
My team, which consists of Russell Wilson, who fired out of the gates with 30 points on Thursday night. Aaron Jones, good for 49.7 points. Leonard Fournette, over 20 points. Zeke Elliott, over 20 points.
Yeah.
Larry Fitzgerald is one of my flex plays. Pretty decent day.
You have a very good team.
I have, so again, Josh Gordon, I've got Sterling Shepard, all reasonable players. I put up 175 plus points.
Which in our league,
that's the second highest score of the year. If you just take in the first 4 weeks, plus week 5, I believe it's the second highest output of the year.
Like a good score in our league is generally like in the 130s.
I was going to say 130 and above is an excellent score.
Yeah.
175, and I'm going to lose by 50.
Yeah.
50 to Stefania Bell, who's got
Stefania just
not
rolled you like a
Deshaun Watson and Will Fuller,
right,
and DJ Chark, but also guys like Sony Michel who came alive. We'll talk about him in just a moment. David Johnson, She hasn't even played George Kittle yet.
I mean, Stefania just rolled. I mean, Stefania's putting up it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
we'll have to talk about this on Friday, but. And as we talked about in the pre-show meeting, by the way, if this had happened to me,
the whole show
I'd have made the entire show about it.
Yeah.
You're in much better spirit than I am.
I just take it in stride. It's fantasy football.
Yes, so tons and tons of screenshots like that. We finally found a few, but it was amazing, like just how few people can actually follow directions on Twitter.
Yeah.
So I was just
sounds like life.
Really? Yes. Yes, it was. I will say, sent out a tweet saying something to that effect where I said something like, it's amazing to me how few people can follow very simple directions, got whatever, 5,000 likes or whatever. So, I mean, a lot of people understood, like read that thread and were just like, they get it. Like, I mean, you should read the thread. It's unbelievable. Like how many people don't even come close to what we asked for.
Go pull it up right now.
Yeah. So, but anyway, yes, if you did not have a rock star, you lost and you lost bad. Like you could put up big, listen, luckily I have, we'll get to Aaron Jones and everything in a minute, but it was truly a historic day. I believe, Thirsty Kyle, do we have something from Tristan? We should have.
No, I have something. I found this myself yesterday. First time ever, 5 players have had at least 40 points in a single week in the history of the NFL. First time ever. There had been 4 on a couple of occasions, certainly some 3s, 2s and 1s, obviously, plenty. First time ever we've had 5 players in PPR scoring score at least 40 points in a single week. And before we just one last
and those 5 people are just for people that may
obviously Aaron Jones you just mentioned.
Yep.
Free
Aaron Jones.
Free Aaron Jones. We will talk about Will Fuller in just a little bit. He was the very top scorer. Michael Thomas.
Yep.
Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
And then who's the last one I'm forgetting?
CMC.
Oh, that's right.
Christian McCaffrey. Of course, who's
Wait,
having
last thing I'll say,
the most ridiculous year ever.
Football in 15 seconds. But I tweeted that, and people were like, well, in my scoring league where you get 100-point bonuses and
right.
30 points, or if you have 2 rushing touchdowns, I had several other players.
I know that was the other thing. I got tweets like, "Dude, I'm in an 8-person league, and I put up 400 points because we get a 50-yard, we got a bonus." Like I'm just like,
you get a bonus for showing up. It's like the SATs.
Come on,
you sign your name and get a 200.
Whatever. We're talking about ESPN standard scoring, but anyway,
let's get to the football.
Rewind. Fantasy news
from the National Football League.
This is the instant replay.
Good job, Daniel.
Yeah.
Like
You're
a lot
on
of
the ball.
I hit the button. Here's the thing. This computer every once in a while will just do a thing where I hit it and it doesn't work.
Oh, you know what? Blame technology. That's always a safe.
There you go.
It's like it's got no name or no face. You can just.
I feel like
blame
Daniel is.
technology.
Daniel's like one of my Twitter followers.
Is that what I am?
He's sort of like he followed directions, sort of.
Right.
Hey, did you see?
Like he's just supposed to hit the button immediately, and he's just like, "Oh, like I wish you guys could see behind the screen because literally here's what's happening. Like we do like our little opening bit, right? And here's Daniel. Like sometimes this is what it is. If you're watching on YouTube or the live stream on Twitter, or Facebook, whatever, on the app, you'll see this. But anyway, so like I'm sort of bent over, just sort of like scribbling. So sometimes he does that, or sometimes you'll look up, and this is literally what I see. This is what I see. If the cameras can catch this, just like. What I'm doing is I've turned away from the microphone and I'm just talking to Keith. That's what I'm doing. That's what Daniel sometimes does. Fair? Is that fair?
That's a fair statement that Keith and I sometimes will chat about the show during the show. That is accurate.
Sure.
They're just making sure that
when you
we're
say
at our
the
best.
show, you mean like Cleveland Browns or the bowling league you guys are in together?
Keith and I are not on the same team, so we do not talk about that. We do not mention the bowling league. It is not a thing that comes
But how
up
about
between
This Is
us.
Us? Maybe some This Is Us conversation?
Yes, This Is Us we
Great
talk
show.
about.
Love that show. I cry
you
every
really?
episode. Every episode I cry. Yeah, it's great.
Really?
Every episode.
I've never seen an episode. I know people love it. I know people love it.
Your off-season homework.
And by the way, the executive producer of This Is Us is like a big fan. Like listens to came to our LA show.
That's right.
Came to our LA show and
every Tuesday night and
I believe he listens to the podcast.
Well, you'll make up for that by watching the show in the off season. So, by the way, Matthew is going to have his time to gather his thoughts, and I promise you, if you're wondering what he thinks about the Redskins right now, you can probably guess. He'll discuss it, we believe, tomorrow on the podcast. You want to formulate some thoughts before you just
we have a packed
away.
show today, and otherwise I would just go on like a 20-minute rant. So I'm going to let my emotions settle.
You spare us that. But in that game, as a parting gift, Jay Gruden unlocked Sony Michel. Sony Michel had a breakout game yesterday, Matthew. He had a touchdown. And how about this? A career high, 3 catches. 3 catches all it takes to become his career high.
3 more than he had for the entire season. Entering week 5 here. And look, Sony Michel was on the love list coming into this week.
Yep.
I predicted a breakout game for him and on Fantasy Football Now, and it wasn't just that I thought the Redskins would fold like they did. They actually played tough in the first half.
They played tough for First half, that's right.
Listen, they're undermanned. Like they're not nearly as talented
or something like that.
Man to man, they're not nearly as talented as the New England Patriots.
Of course, they had a lead. The only team that's led the Patriots this year is the Washington Redskins, baby.
Hail the Redskins, hail victory. So
you can't hail victory.
Listen, I can hail victory, and I'll tell you why. We had a board bet, Field and I predicted the Patriots. I predicted the Patriots would cover the spread, which I believe was 15. Field somehow thought the Redskins would play him tough enough. Field doesn't watch nearly enough Redskins football to know that one. That was money in the bank. I cannot blame you at all.
All right. So Sony Michel, 16 for 91 in the touchdown.
Right.
Very encouraging day.
Very encouraging day. And one of the things that I talked about both on Fantasy Football Now as a buy low. We did a buy low segment on the show on Sunday morning, and why he was in the love list is because they never wavered from him, right? So he now has at least 15 carries in 4 out of 5 games this season, right? And coming in 3 out of 4, right? And so he now has a rushing touchdown in 3 of his last 4 games. And one of the stats that I was talking about was the fact that Sony Michel, despite the ineffectiveness, despite the lack of yards after first contact, despite the moribund state of the Patriots running game prior to week 5, Sony Michel still led the NFL in rushes inside an opponent's 10-yard line coming in to the game against the Redskins. And so I said, and I believe this, like if you watch Bill Belichick and you watch Patriots football, they have, even in years in which Tom Brady has been like Tom freaking Brady, they run when they get close to the playoffs. They like to go more conservative when it gets colder. They go more run heavy. They like to do it in the playoffs. You think about what they did last year on their successful Super Bowl run. Like that was a run first team. And like last year, obviously worked out. They were 5th in run percentage. So for the season, so I knew they needed to get this run game going. And so my expectation here is that Sony Michel is an RB2 going forward. Look, he is still too much. He's still a little touchdown dependent. The fact that he was used a little bit in the passing game is unbelievable.
It was good. Yeah, it was encouraging. Yeah.
Very encouraging here. But despite the fact that it was the Redskins, I have to believe more days like yesterday are coming, especially look at their upcoming schedule real quickly.
But the whole season schedule, right?
Right.
The whole season schedule should be favorable. I mean, just the next 4 games you're going to reference, Giants, Jets, Browns, and Ravens. I mean,
you'll run against any of them.
Right, you'll run against any of them. And then the Patriots, like, there are teams where we talk about, like, they need to be playing in a positive game script to get the ground game going. Like Tampa Bay, for example. If they're playing tight, well, then Ronald Jones can run the football a lot. But Tampa can be down by multiple touchdowns any given week, as we saw yesterday. For the Patriots, I'm not saying they can't be down by multiple scores, but more often than not, they're going to be competitive. And Sony Michel, we saw a bit more explosion, 2 runs of 14 or more yards yesterday. He had 1 carry like that going into the game. We're both encouraged. No Rex Burkhead yesterday, too, which is worth noting. We expect Burkhead back. If not this week, then maybe in probably by the Jets game in 2 weeks. But still, good days for Sony Michel. And
they needed to get him right. And, with the loss of James Devlin, and they've had some shuffling on the offensive line as well. And so Patriots offensive line always
they tend to figure it out. And last thing I'll say is that Mike Reese, the intrepid Patriots reporter here at ESPN,
does an amazing job.
Wrote a couple of Sundays ago about how everybody's talking about Sony Michel and the yards per carry average, but there was a game, maybe week 3, where the Patriots offensive line, they won. They'd smoked somebody, and they were pissed after the game about how poorly they felt they had been playing. As in they were everybody's talking about Sony, we've got to be better, and they were taking it personally. And maybe we saw some of that yesterday. Not so much in terms of protecting Tom Brady, but in terms of creating run lanes, it was better.
Yeah, they still have some work to do. There's no question. Tom Brady got hit a lot, and you're not used to seeing that.
Yeah.
And so I am sure that despite the score, despite the fact the Patriots still undefeated, I am sure Belichick is yelling at everyone and furious at how much TB12 got hit. It's interesting. Brandon Bolden catches the touchdown, played only 10 snaps here, but to me, that's the Rex Burkhead role, right? Like, it is what it is. It was just a wheel route, and he just happened to be open, and obviously Tom hit it in stride, and it was a touchdown. But ultimately, it's going to be Sony Michel and James White, and I think are both viable RB2s going forward.
Gardner Minshew mania has taken over the NFL, and perhaps now, Matthew, it has taken over fantasy football. Yesterday, 374 yards, 2 touchdowns, 7 carries for 42 yards, over 21 fantasy points. You buying Gardner Minshew as a legitimate top 12 quarterback? Top 14?
Definitely top 14, top 15, he's already been a viable fantasy quarterback in 2 QB leagues, right? Or, in a deeper league, right? And so far, now through 5 weeks, he's the 10th best quarterback in fantasy in terms of total points. He's QB 11 on a points per game basis.
Right.
And what was impressive is that in a game at Carolina, and the Panthers, remember, were coming off a week where they shut down Deshaun Watson, and they had played very good defense.
Yeah.
Throughout this year, that's a good defense in Carolina.
They played good again yesterday. Besides, in other facets.
Yeah, 100%. They absolutely did, and they were down, and so some of this is a little junk-timey.
But still,
26 for 44, 374 yards, 2 touchdowns, 7 carries for 42 yards, which I think was interesting, more mobile than he probably gets credit for. Multiple touchdown passes in 4 out of 5 games so far this year. And he has a 10-yard rush in 3 of his last 4. So again, he's using that mobility, whether it's breaking down. And given you referenced earlier in the show because you were talking about your War Room League team, but given how good Fournette's been, that's opening up play action. So it's always like, for me, I'm curious your thoughts here, but for me, it's always like when people are successful in football, why? Why were they successful? Was it junk time? Was it a fluke play? How repeatable is this? And so you think about why Jacksonville's been successful. Pretty good offensive line. He's played well. Give him credit. Fournette has been terrific.
Yep.
Setting up play action. And by the way, they finally found a consistent threat opposite D.D. Westbrook, and that's DJ Chark, who's been nothing short of a revelation.
It might have to be that D.D. Westbrook plays opposite of DJ Chark.
But my point is that D.D. Westbrook was...
I know.
I'm with you. Like, if you're ranking for the rest of the season, you'd prefer Chark to Westbrook. But my point is like, last year, he was like the only guy that you could count on. And like, and so it's been a while. Like, you have to think back to the Allen Robinson days. I'm thinking where you've had like and again, Westbrook had moments last year, but I feel like Allen Robinson was like the last truly great Jacksonville Jaguars fantasy wide receiver.
And that was with inconsistent quarterback play. We're now getting consistent Gardner Minshew play. And I'll say, so I wrote the waiver wire column, and I do have him on the waiver wire column, but my feeling is that, no, I'm not automatically starting Gardner Minshew. Like, I'm not benching, if you have, in terms of like the set it and forget it starters right now, I'm not benching. Again, on average, maybe in certain weeks, yes, but like obviously not guys Mahomes and Lamar and Russell Wilson, and not someone like Matt Ryan, even though he's been inconsistent, or he's been turnover prone, I should say. Tom Brady, like there's still Deshaun Watson.
Right.
There are still Dak Prescott, probably 10 easy players that you're starting over Gardner Minshew. But if you relied on someone like Baker Mayfield out of the gates, or Cam Newton out of the gates, or somebody else, Drew Brees, and you haven't quite figured it out, Minshew is certainly a quarterback you'd be considering. Yeah.
Rest of the season, who do you want? And I ask this with all seriousness.
Aaron Rodgers?
Gardner Minshew or Aaron Rodgers?
Not quite there yet with Aaron Rodgers.
But I
know. I know. I didn't laugh at you. I didn't laugh.
Look, you and I both agree from a pure talent standpoint, Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest of all time.
Sure, yeah. Absolutely.
Like this is not a knock on Aaron Rodgers, but it's just like we're 5 games in, and he's had basically one usable fantasy day.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, like, and
they're 4-1,
and they're 4-1,
right? Yeah.
I mean, it's not like oh, we got to change something. Like, my belief is, and I've met Aaron Rodgers once in my life, so I can't seem to know him at all. But my expectation would be is that if you asked Aaron Rodgers what's more important to you, 4-1 or putting up big fantasy numbers, he's going to take 4-1.
Sure, he will. Absolutely.
It's working.
He said it yesterday. He talked about yesterday. The formula seems to be working. We'll talk about that was a huge win for them. Huge. We'll talk about their Packers offense a little bit more later on in the show. One more Minshew mania stuff.
But answer the question for me. Rest of the season.
Aaron Rodgers. Because Minshew may not be the starter after week 11.
Oh, I think Nick Foles has lost his job.
Ooh, I love it. I don't know.
You?
I am reserving the right to not answer that question for like 5 more weeks.
You got to answer the question. That's not fair.
Nick Foles has not lost
ESPN.
his job. As of right now, he has not lost his job.
Oh, my God.
As of this moment, he has not lost his job. But I
understand that. I'm just saying. Come on.
Lost his job. No.
Oh, my God. Stephen A. Smith is rolling his eyes at you somewhere. Come on. Have a take, for the love of Pete. Is this allowed?
Here's my take.
Is reasonable thought allowed here? Keith Lipscomb, I don't.
On this show?
He has to have a hot take.
I think this is a perfect board bet opportunity.
I'll say that.
Ooh, I'll do that.
I believe that when Nick Foles is healthy, the Jaguars starting quarterback is still Gardner Minshew.
I believe when Nick Foles gets healthy, Nick Foles will become the Jaguars starting quarterback again.
Put it on the board.
Put it on the board.
One last
and
Gardner
Obviously
Minshew
that is
stat.
for this season. This is for this season.
One more Gardner Minshew stat. How about this?
And it is both if they're both healthy, obviously. So if Minshew gets hurt 2 games in or whatever. Yeah.
So in terms of quarterbacks that have 16 or more fantasy points in every week this season.
Yeah.
I looked this up. Patrick Mahomes.
I've heard of him.
Kyler Murray, which
I've heard of him.
But good.
Yeah.
And Gardner Minshew. Minshew didn't even start in week 1. How about that? 3 guys.
Gardner.
3 guys.
Minshew. It's like, look, I have to tell you, one of the other things that's exciting about him is it's a great story. Like, he's such an easy kid to root for. It's such an amazing story that every year in the NFL, sometimes there are stories that you don't love. You don't love to see that. And it's just like, it's great to see a story like that. A story about, and by the way, if you don't know that much about him, like if all you know about Gardner Minshew is the stats and like whatever, the stash and a couple of wacky outfits that you've seen on social media, like read more about his story and like his college career.
It's great. Yeah, it's really compelling,
like trying to walk onto teams and like he's had to go to a bunch of different colleges and like it is like the ultimate story of perseverance and like
good for him. Yeah.
Such an easy kid to root for.
So his wide receiver that you referenced a minute ago, DJ Chark, had another monster game. He had 36.4 fantasy points yesterday, did DJ Chark, again, against me in the War Room. Matthew, he's the number 5 wide receiver. Number 5 on the season. That, of course, excludes players, and we have not yet finished the week of week 5, but has a good chance to remain number 5 going into week 6. Have we reached the point now where if you roster DJ Chark and you added him, after the fact, are you guys trying to tell me it's Chark and not Shark? Is that what Kyle's doing with the big CH? There's some discrepancy there. I think it's DJ Chark.
Keith is going nuts every time you say the name.
What do you got, not cool, Keith?
You think it's Chark and not Shark?
I've not seen Chark anywhere, including after speaking with Mike Duraco of the Jags, and he asked about it, and it's Chark. He says
Chark.
like church.
Well, I'm calling him DJ Chark.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we know.
Chark.
And that's that.
The problem is, and I want to make a fantasy focus ruling here. I want your thoughts on this.
Yeah, it's a Shark.
Secret squirrel, not cool, Keith. You guys can weigh in here. Where are we on? Because I've seen some people, including other fantasy analysts, be like, it's the baby shark song.
Baby shark.
Right. So where are we on that for DJ Chark? Because I've seen people like, DJ Chark.
It doesn't work.
Like, and I don't.
It still rhymes. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm just. I don't know.
Good. I like DJ Chark. Can we just call him DJ Chark?
I'm not sure how I feel about that as the nickname for him. I know people are excited about that and F1. I'm becoming kind of the nickname Grinch.
Yeah, I think everyone's in on F1. Like, that's pretty much settled at this point. But DJ Chark.
I'm the innovative nicknamer around here, as some know. So DJ Chark. DJ Chark. But I call him Shark.
Anyway, I'm asking the fantasy community to kill it with the baby shark tunes. That's my own take. Maybe I'm a Grinch. Maybe I'm an angry old man.
Okay, so let me just reset here so I don't screw up a video.
Yes, sir.
DJ Chark is now the number 5 wide receiver for the entire season after 36.4 fantasy points yesterday. If you have DJ Chark on your roster,
yes, sir,
because you either used a late round pick on him or, more likely, you rostered him through the waiver wire. Is he now a set it, forget it, don't ever think twice, keep him in your lineup going forward?
How could he not be?
I don't know. I have no answer.
How is the answer no, not yet? Again, as you mentioned, the 5th wide receiver so far the year. We talked about him on Fantasy Football Now Sunday morning, and we talked about the fact that he had been the 10th best wide receiver in fantasy going into that game.
Right.
Here's a guy that has 5 touchdown receptions in 5 games so far this year. We just talked about Gardner Minshew and Minshew mania. One of the reasons why Minshew has been so terrific is DJ Chark, right? Or Chark, I should say. 34.6% of Minshew's pass completions and passing yards have gone to DJ Chark. Like, there is a real connection there, right? 56.9% of his deep passing yards have gone to DJ. And it's one of those things, by the way, and I think he's a great example of this because so many people out there, specifically in fantasy football, like, preseason doesn't matter. Blah, 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 blah. Preseason doesn't matter. And DJ Chark is one of the prime examples of, oh, yes, it does. Because he was a guy, like, D.D. Westbrook was the highest rated Jaguars wide receiver that I had coming into the drafts. You know what I mean? I'll completely own that. And we kept hearing the most impressive player in camp so far this year is DJ Chark. Mike Duraco talked about it. Yep. Other people that cover the Jaguars talked about it. And we saw this. And so that preseason production has boiled over into the regular season in a significant way, Field.
It really has. And I will just say this is, you said how it changed your thoughts.
Yeah.
Doug Marrone, the head coach of the Jaguars. Now, this was in reference to Gardner Minshew, but he said Gardner Minshew made me rethink how I feel about preseason based off how he played, how he performed, how he earned that job as a number 2 quarterback behind Nick Foles. There was a competition at one point for that backup job. But I'm with you, DJ Chark. Chark has been outstanding. I give him a lot of credit for his performance, and he is, of course, a player that if you roster him, he's going to be in your lineup every single
Jaguars
week.
have 11 red zone targets this year. Chark has 5 of them. Like, basically half.
Yeah, he has been go-to for them.
So,
I was really
we both agree this continues. And by the way, you think about their upcoming schedule, Field: Saints, Bengals, Jets, Texans in London.
3 out of 4 you like right there.
You really do like, and honestly, like, maybe he gets shadowed by Lattimore against the Saints. With the exception of Mike Evans, and we'll get to him in a second, Lattimore's been bad this year. He's been burned a decent amount.
He can certainly be had, that much we know, based off what we've seen so far this season, separate from yesterday.
He shut down Evans in a big way.
You know what happens sometimes? The squeaky wheeling gets the grease.
Yeah.
How about that? Adam Thielen.
This is not
got
good.
the grease against the Giants. But
Daniel is rolling his eyes right now because he knows that like I'm noticing this, that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and this is good for me to notice.
Wheeling.
Squeaky wheeling.
Squeaky wheeling.
The squeaky wheeling
Adam
gets
Squeaky
the grease.
Wheeling. I get it.
Okay.
I get it because his name is Thielen.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me explain it to the people that don't get it.
Oh.
His name is Thielen.
Yeah.
But he was like, the phrase is squeaky wheel. And so
Well, Field's been saying that since like week
Squeaky
3 that
wheeling.
he's the squeaky
I'm
wheel.
just saying, like, so it's a pun. It's a play on his name and a play
Right.
on the phrase squeaky
Right.
wheel. So just
Yep.
for people that didn't get that, just want me to, I'm just putting that together for them. That's the reference. That's the joke. That's the humor of it right there.
Well, if you
That's
explain the joke,
that's
it means the joke
ha-ha.
was not funny
No,
in the
no, that's
beginning,
the
so my
ha-ha
joke
of it.
was
That's the
bad.
piece of it, the squeaky wheeling.
So, but we did have a massive breakout day
Really?
from Adam Thielen. Now, Kyle's trying to make it into a Shark joke.
Yeah.
It's DJ Shark. Anyways, Adam Thielen has an awesome day yesterday.
Yes, sir.
7 catches, 130
I actually like
yards.
squeaky wheeling.
Okay,
I
good.
just want you to know.
Thank
I
you.
kind of like this.
7 for 130 with 2 touchdowns for Adam Thielen.
Yes, sir.
Stephon Diggs was limited to just 2 catches during that game. So, Matthew, I think here's what I'm really wondering is, did we reach any meaningful conclusions about the Vikings passing game yesterday? They threw it more. Kirk Cousins had 300-plus passing yards. Thielen had a monster day. Diggs was quiet. But are we really convinced that yesterday was a turning point? Do you feel as though going forward you have no doubts or no concerns about Adam Thielen and you're totally panicked over Stephon Diggs? Or do you get the sense this has a chance to be a perpetual problem throughout the year? That they're going to be, let's say, 3 or 4 more weeks going forward of the remaining 11 games that they play. So let's call it, nearly a third of the weeks where Adam Thielen has a total dud performance, and maybe Stephon Diggs has a dud performance in half of those games, and then the other remaining games for those players, they're very good or amazing like Thielen was yesterday. Does that make sense? Like, I think what people are worried about is that, like, hey, they know that Adam Thielen's really talented. They've seen him do it before, but what they want to know if yesterday is an indication that we should expect not every game to be for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns, but should we be expecting, 15-plus points a week from Adam Thielen going forward?
Here's my take, is that I thought, look, he's going into this, but I had Thielen.
It's both he and Stephon Diggs question, really, right?
But I think it's combined and they're separate on some level, right? So first off, there's some positive signs here, right? Last 2 weeks, and this obviously includes the game against the Giants,
yep.
Vikings passing the ball 60% of the time, compared with 42% of the time, weeks 1 through 3. So they are starting to open it up a little bit more.
They are.
So Thielen made the love list coming into the week, and like that's not me patting myself on the back. The reason I bring that up is one of the things that I referenced was that of the 13 deep ball attempts that they had made going into week 5, Adam Thielen had 8 of them. So he is, and we can argue as to whether that's correct or not. I mean, because Diggs is all sorts of fast, but Adam Thielen, at least to date, had been sort of the deep ball threat that they had gotten the most targets for the Minnesota Vikings.
Right.
So going against a Giants team that has been burned by the deep ball in a significant way, it was one of those things where I thought that Thielen would, in fact, get some looks here. And by the way, Adam Thielen, really good NFL player. Like, forget everything else. Like, he's just a very talented wide receiver.
Yeah.
He's a very talented wide receiver. And so, look, Cousins and Thielen, like they had a public falling out. They had a public apology as well. So it was a little bit mending. I mean, one of the jokes I made on Fantasy Football Now was, I say, hey, it's all good for a public apology. You know what says sorry? A couple of deep balls, couple touchdowns. Exactly. And so that ended up happening. I think for me, so I am cautiously optimistic.
Right.
Like I thought Cousins looked better. Listen, they ran the ball well as well. And so you think about their upcoming schedule: Philadelphia at Detroit, home to Washington, at Kansas City.
You like 3 out of those 4.
Yeah, except for at Detroit. You don't, for the passing game, now.
May I?
Yeah.
On these, you finish. And
Well,
then
the last thing I was going to say is that, so I am, to answer your question, I'm certainly encouraged about Thielen moving forward. I'm encouraged about Kirk Cousins in the passing game of the Vikings. And I believe Diggs will ultimately get his. I believe Diggs is a talented player, right? He's still got a decent amount of targets in this game.
I'm nervous.
But previous years, similar to Godwin and Evans, similar to, you think about, Julio and Calvin Ridley last year. Like previous years, Thielen and Diggs have both been viable no brainer. You start both guys. You don't think about it. And I don't think this offense can support 2 fantasy relevant wide receivers every week. I think there will be some weeks where it's Diggs and some weeks where it's Thielen. But I think the weeks in which it's both guys, which is what it was all last year up until Stefanski took over, I think those days are over.
I'm nervous. I'm not nervous about Adam Thielen going forward, because I think that not only is Adam Thielen really talented, and they're going to have to throw it in some games like they had to against the Bears last week. Not that they had to against the Giants yesterday, but they chose to, which was a good sign. Adam Thielen's really talented. The matchups are good for 3 out of the next 4 weeks. I also think there was a desire to keep Adam Thielen happy. I don't get the sense that the Vikings are as interested in making sure that Stephon Diggs is placated, that he gets what he wants after his conduct and his decorum for the past week. They fined him $200,000. There's a lot of sympathy right now for Stephon Diggs. I don't know if you saw it yesterday, but he was asked in the locker room, I believe by Josina Anderson, do you want to be in Minnesota? And his response, and this is one of those times where I'm asking for the camera because it's actually pertinent, he goes, yeah, I want to be in Minnesota. And drops a wink. And some people are saying, hey, that's Stephon. He's a very he's got a really positive, playful nature to him. Like, he's just winking. And I'm like, you know something? It's possible maybe he is. But do you really think that players who have been, like, he's obviously been very
frustrated.
Calculated. Well, he's been frustrated and calculated with what he's been saying and doing this week. Do you think that he is so naive to think that if he doesn't wink right there, or if he winks right there, no one's going to notice? I don't think he's going to get traded. I know Morton Shefty reported on this yesterday morning, but still, I think he's unhappy, and I think that that's not going to change going forward, so I am nervous on Stephon Diggs. Again, it's hard to say, just bench him because he's talented, but I'm nervous.
But let's play that out forward. Okay, so you have Stephon Diggs on your team.
Yeah.
And you're
can't do
nervous.
anything about it. Yeah.
What are you doing?
Praying that I'm wrong.
No, but I'm just saying, I'm like asking. So let's play that out. Like, are you trying to sell him for 50 cents on the dollar? Are you trying to, you're trying to weather the storm? Are you saying, like, I'm going to hold out, hope this gets better, I'm going to bench him and see what else I have?
The problem is selling him for 50 cents on the dollar right now is like getting a kicker, right? Like, there's just nothing of value there. It's more that, given the depth of wide receiver, I would hope that most teams have a choice to make between their flex consideration each week. And in most weeks, it's Stephon Diggs or somebody else. And whoever your somebody else is, that's where I would be leaning right now.
Yeah.
I know that's what I'm dealing with in a league right now, and I have now decided that it's not going to be him.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm going to lose to Tim Hasselbeck in the War Room League this week. And the reason I'm going to is Stephon Diggs. Like, it's a 16-team league. I have no choice.
Right.
I've had a couple injuries there as well. I'm still in 4th place. But just saying, just throwing that in there. Just whatever. Still 3-2. Just saying. Yeah, I mean, like, Stephon Diggs has been nothing short of, a massive disappointment for me. He was supposed to be my number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
Because I went running back heavy at the top.
Not so much so far.
Yeah.
We can get to this next one quickly, Matthew, because I think that the story of this week will be developed over the next 3 days. But with Wayne Gallman now in the concussion protocol and Saquon Barkley being a question mark to return on Thursday, for a 1-week rental basis, do you have any interest in Jonathan Hillman, who took over yesterday at 9 carries, 20 yards? They play the Patriots on Thursday night. Like,
correct. No.
Yeah, okay. So this is sort of like we address it to dismiss it, because I think he'll get added in some teams. And I did put him on the waiver wire column. Like, if you're so desperate because you have no other options and there are 4 teams on a bye, and you had Saquon and then you had Wayne Gallman, and then you're totally out of luck otherwise.
Right. He's going to be a starting running back for an NFL team this Thursday night, and that has some value. But no, I'm not interested. Like, I will say this, and I because we're planning out the waiver wire episode of the Fantasy Show on ESPN Plus. I'm a company man, and running back is ugly.
I'll say this right now.
Ugly.
I told this. I've never done this before. My 4 years right in the column. I have never reached out to Keith to solicit suggestions for the column. But I texted him this morning and I said, Keith, I'm stuck in the mud. This is the worst waiver wire column week I can ever remember. Do you have any names that I should add beyond the players that I had? It's slim pickings, to say the least. All right, let's just move this forward.
Can I give you a suggestion? Can I give you a thought real quick just while we're talking about this?
Yeah.
Because this is one thing that we're going to talk about here.
Streaming defenses?
No, not even streaming defenses. What I'm going to say is, like, I would rather, and it depends, like, if you need a body, so you pick up, Hillman or whatever, you just need somebody to, but I would rather use my waiver claim this week if I had a running back and I had people to start this week and I didn't need, quote unquote, I would rather use it to fortify my bench with handcuffs.
Sure,
like I would rather like, and there's certain guys like if I had Fournette, I'd want Raquel Anderson, right? I mean, like if I had Christian McCaffrey, I'd want Reggie Bonifant. You know what I mean? Like I like guys like that. Like
Armstead, by the way, and Raquel.
Sorry, what did I say?
Anderson, Armstead, same thing.
Armstead, sorry.
But anyways,
yes,
point
right.
well taken. Go add your handcuffs instead. Let's move forward to our relentless moment of the week, which is provided by who other than Will Fuller, who put up the 9th best fantasy game ever for a wide receiver. Kyle notes this. He went from wide receiver 65 on the season to wide receiver 7.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? 65 to 7. We've got a 5-week sample size. Is it this simple, Matthew? One great game from Will Fuller equals Will Fuller needing to be in your lineup every single week going forward? Or is that just making things far too simple for a player that has been wildly inconsistent up to this point?
I think he's still wide receiver 3, but with significant upside. Look, obviously, right? But here's the thing. So he was on the love list coming into this week, right? Okay. And so funny. I remember you in the pre-show meeting for Fantasy Football Now. We were talking about like, hey, can we get Will Fuller into the show? Like, I really like him a lot today, and we were supposed to, and we never did. We just a lot going on during that show in terms of reporters and different guests and a lot of names we deal with. But one of the reasons why he was on the love list in my love hate column this week was because I felt like he was very close. Right, that he had missed a touchdown by this much the week before against Carolina. Like Watson just overthrew him. Like just if Watson hits him in stride, it's a 75-yard touchdown.
Right.
And so he had gotten 6 or more targets in every game so far this year. So you've got Deshaun Watson, who is a very good quarterback, and Will Fuller, who's a very talented wide receiver, and they just hadn't connected yet. And so, it was a good matchup here as well. So Will Fuller has run at least 32 routes in every game so far this year, right?
Yep.
And you think about Deshaun Watson last season, and we sort of chalked it up last year to his coming back from the injury, right? But through the first 7 weeks of last year, he was QB 13. Like Watson started slow last year before obviously, finishing the year as a monster. And so maybe Deshaun Watson's just a slow starter, right? I mean, again, he missed him a couple of times. Like he's been up and down. I'm not talking fantasy wise. I'm just talking NFL quarterback wise. He's been up and down so far this year a little bit. And so, look, he was lights out, obviously, yesterday against the Falcons. And so, it was obviously a good matchup with, given the Falcons secondary as well. But, yeah, I mean, the thing that was most encouraging to me here about Will Fuller was 14 catches. Like, usually Will Fuller is, right? Yeah. Usually Will Fuller is like 3 for 75 and a touchdown, right? He's like one huge big play.
Sure.
But the fact that he got 14 catches for 217 yards, like whatever, the 217 and the and some of it was yards after the catch, but that's part of his game. But the fact that he got double-digit receptions in this game is really, really encouraging here. And the question with Will Fuller has never been talent. It's always been health. He's fully healthy, and now, again, the usage has been there. They just haven't gotten on the same page and connected, and they did. And so this is his best game of the season, certainly. But do I think it's more real than not? Absolutely.
Yeah, we've seen it plenty of times before from Will Fuller. And I think, and I don't want to make this so like non-expert analytically driven. I just want to but I do want to put sort of a personal touch on this because so I don't think anybody, or I should say most people probably were not slotting Will Fuller into a top 2 wide receiver spot in their roster most weeks, right? He was probably a player that you were dancing with the possibility of flexing him or not flexing him. Or in some cases, you just totally did not consider it at all. So I think when you're making your lineup decisions, it's kind of what can you live with in a given week, right? So I'm just making this up here. But let's say that you're imagining a scenario of choosing between Will Fuller or
Jarvis Landry.
I was going to say Golden Tate or Jarvis Landry. That's fine. Good example, right? Maybe not a great example because Jarvis Landry had a huge game last week. He just a monster game last week. Let's say Golden Tate, okay? Golden Tate back for the Giants, and you're like, okay, hey, which one of those players has the likelier chance of not 50 points, because we never say a player is likely to score 50 points, 25 points, right? And I think a really solid Golden Tate game is like 8 catches for 99 yards, right? Something like that.
That's maybe a great Golden Tate game.
It's a great Golden Tate game, right? Whereas like a great Will Fuller game might be like 5 for 155 and 2 touchdowns, or call it 1.5 touchdowns to use Mike Clay parlance, right? Like it just makes, I think some of it's just what can you live with?
Well, it's very simple. It's basically it's ceiling versus floor.
Right.
right? So somebody like Golden Tate, at least in theory, right, or Landry prior to last week's blow up, right? There's certain guys that just have a high floor.
Sure.
That there's not necessarily like, somebody that's going to, I'm trying to think like Adam Humphries last year was a good floor guy, right? And so it's floor versus ceiling, huh?
Wolf this year on Humphries. Woof.
Oh, Titans. But right there's just like a floor there, and so you want with Will Fuller, like, he could goose egg you, right? And I'm sure there's definitely people out there that threw Will Fuller into the lineups like the first couple of weeks and just like, I'm done.
Oh,
I'm done with these goose eggs.
I got a lot of responses yesterday. Yep.
And then, of course, they see this. Well, shame on you. You should read Love Hate on ESPN.com. Of course, I'm a company man. But it's floor versus ceiling, and it's just sort of what you need from that flex spot in a given week. His floor is that, but I think his floor, is potentially zero, right? Because he's a big boomer bust guy. Having said that, listen, I'm a Will Fuller fan. I'm a Will Fuller believer. He was a preseason sleeper for me. Obviously, I had him on the love list. It's been an inconsistent season so far, but a game like this gives him confidence, gives the coaching staff confidence, gives his quarterback confidence to get more of it. And by the way, if ever there was a great buy low candidate, it's DeAndre Hopkins.
Sure, absolutely. Because right now he has been, he is as frustrating as Will Fuller was exciting yesterday. Another great day, what's the opposite of great? Pedestrian.
Matthew.
Mediocre. Matthew, right.
Yeah. Matthew, another mediocre day from DeAndre Hopkins yesterday.
Right.
Los Angeles.
We believe in the talent there. Hopkins is going to be just fine.
Yep. So the Chargers got Melvin Gordon back yesterday.
Yeah, they did.
And it did not go quite as planned. I mean, it depends how you look at it, I guess. So here are the raw numbers between Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler. Snaps played, 41 for Eckler, 31 for Gordon. Carries, 12 for Gordon, 3 for Eckler. So Gordon with the decided edge there. But here's the real difference. Austin Eckler had 16 targets yesterday.
Yeah.
For 15 catches for 86 yards. I believe that is the fewest yards ever with 15 catches or more in a game. 15 for 86, lost a fumble, 22.3 to 7.8 was the edge in fantasy points yesterday for Eckler over Gordon.
Well, we've talked about this, right? So with a lack of weapons in the passing game for the Chargers, and they, by the way, give the Broncos credit, they shut down Keenan Allen.
Great win. Yes, they sure did.
They shut down Keenan Allen. So there's Phillip Rivers looking around trying to find guys, and Mike Williams had come back, but I don't know if he's fully 100% healthy here. So Austin Eckler out of the backfield just getting, a bunch of dump offs, right? Yeah. So Rivers was under pressure in a decent amount in this game. And so I thought, just forget stats for a second. I thought from the eye test, I thought Eckler and Gordon looked like they were running at different speeds.
Well, here's what I would say is that you run the risk of, so we understand why Melvin Gordon wanted to return, why they were excited to have him back. We always talk about like managing locker rooms.
Yeah.
And I wonder what the locker room perception of that was yesterday after the game. When one guy, and I get it, Eckler did not run great, 3 for 7. But one guy made an impact on this game yesterday. One guy did not.
That's right.
And it was Austin Eckler who made the impact.
And by the way, Austin Eckler's made an impact this entire season.
Right. And I think, by the way,
Gordon's been sitting on his couch.
Like, tempo-wise, it shouldn't be a total surprise. I just wonder if, they have no more time to waste. No, they are now
2-3.
They're third place in the division. The Raiders, who got a great win yesterday, really impressed by the Raiders yesterday. They're 3-2, and Kansas City's 4-1. They're obviously outstanding. The Chargers have no more time to mess around. They do this every year. They start slow, it seems like. So if Eckler is better than Melvin Gordon, as much as Anthony Lynn has stated the case that it should be Gordon over Eckler, I tell you what, man, you need to play the best player. And their schedule is fine for the next 2 weeks. Maybe they get right for Pittsburgh, and then they go on the road to Tennessee, which is a difficult matchup. But still, I don't know. I think if I were to watch that game yesterday, and we're getting, by the way, I assume that's
Eckler, right? That's Eckler. So this is interesting because we talked about this on Fantasy Football Now.
We'll see if we're trying to get this information solidified.
Right, okay. All right. So one question about Melvin Gordon,
yes.
Right? And then we'll talk about this backfield going forward. But here's my question about Melvin Gordon. His last 5 games, including the playoffs,
yep.
Melvin Gordon has 60 carries for 169 yards, 2.8 yards per carry.
Yep.
And this is one of the things we talked about when he was coming back, is that I said, like, listen, Melvin Gordon isn't the most efficient guy out there. Like, for fantasy value, what you need from Melvin Gordon is you need touchdowns and you need volume. So listen, he got volume yesterday. I mean, as in terms of running backs, like he got 16 touches in his first game back. Like that, pretty good for his first game back, especially in a game in which he didn't look that great. Now, again, 12 for 31, he caught 4 balls for 7 yards, under 8 fantasy points. Again, not a good fantasy day, but like first game back, 16 touches is not, not nothing.
Right.
But are you worried at all? Like 2.8 yards per carry. And again, I just thought from the eye test, Eckler looked like the more explosive running back on the field yesterday.
Did look better. Obviously, it was a weird game, right? Like game flow depended upon or made them have to throw the football a ton. Which
they were down 14
part
quickly.
of the reason, very quickly. Which part of the reason why Eckler had so many targets, and also in terms of the players that were out yesterday, there was Mike Williams played. He was banged up going into the game. Dontrell Lippman's on IR. They've already lost Hunter Henry, or he could return soon, but still. Down multiple tight ends, down multiple wide receivers. They've been banged up. No surprise there. It's or I should say no mystery there. That's been the thing. But I guess I'll have to own this a little bit. Austin Eckler in Week 5, according to the Next Gen player locations.
Next Gen stats. Yep.
Ran 21 routes from the backfield yesterday, 5 from the slot, and 5 out wide. So here's what I said last week was that when a player, like when a second running back returns, they don't just make that other player. They don't just make a second running back a wide receiver. And so yesterday they used him in 10 snaps to play wide receiver, or to play a sort of wide receiver alignment-ish. So a better call by you than me on that one. 3 catches from the slot, 1 out wide for Eckler, and then 11 of them came from the backfield. So he was predominantly a running back with a
but what we talked
about
is could you see him in the backfield and go in motion and run out of the slot or run out wide or anything like that. And so listen, I think the takeaways here are they'll get this figured out. They will, but I don't know if you've done your rankings yet for Week 6. I'll start looking at them tonight. That's sort of my process. And then I really started dialing on them on Tuesday. But I will have Austin Eckler ranked ahead of Melvin Gordon, not only this week, but until I see something on the field that makes me want to change my mind. Because I think you mentioned the locker room, and I think that's something that, and I've talked about this before, I think that is something, Field, that goes so underlooked in fantasy analysis is the politics of a team, of that an NFL team is like any other workplace, right? I mean, it's not like any other workplace. Obviously, it's a very different, but it's a workplace.
Sure.
It's a workplace, and there are politics and there are relationships, and there are things that factor into it beyond just X and O's. I mean, like, think about my Redskins. And one of the reasons why the players started quitting on Jay Gruden, although I think they showed up yesterday, was they were all upset that he made Adrian Peterson a healthy scratch in Week 1, and like the locker room was upset about that. And I agree with you. I think without having any sources in the Chargers locker room or anything like that, my sense is that if I'm a player in that team and I saw how Austin Eckler balled out, I'm going to be upset if he suddenly is on the bench.
Yeah, this is one. I just need to think about this one more. I'm going to be honest with you. I need to think more about how I'm going to rank these players both for Week 6 and then also going forward. More to come on the Chargers backfield, and we'll be back in just a minute. We're going to have a quick word from our buddy, the aforementioned Stephen A. Smith.
I'm a little bit under the weather, but I must say, I just saw that missed field goal with a little over a minute and 40 seconds left. And those Cowboys, it's not going to work. I mean, Dak struggling throwing interceptions. I mean, can't make field goals. Jason Garrett losing his composure, showing they got a little attitude. You the Cowboy fans out there, you watched your team, didn't you? You watched them giving that good fight. You watched them come on back. They teased you, didn't they? They had you believing that somehow, some way, it was going to come back from this. Well, guess what? I reckon you were wrong. Not going to happen. It's beautiful. Hey, how about them Cowboys?
Fantasy, you're in the whole 6010. Focus. Fantasy.
For those watching on the video stream, you just saw Stephen A. Smith go on and on and on about the Cowboys losing. Of course, that happened. The Green Bay Packers yesterday, much to the delight of our soon-to-be married friend, Mr. Kyle Soppe. The Packers rolled to a victory yesterday. It ended up getting kind of close in the end. 34-24 was the final, but maybe not nearly as close as the score would indicate. But it was charged by an unbelievable day of Aaron Jones, who had 19 carries for 107 yards, plus 4 touchdowns and 7 catches for 75 yards.
Free Aaron Jones. This is what you get, Green Bay, when you free Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones free? Yes.
Finally.
Free at last.
Free at last. Maybe, though.
Maybe.
Maybe, because Matthew, as amazing as it was, and listen, as a benefactor of this day, I mean, not enough to beat Stefania in the War Room League, but still, as a benefactor of this day.
I'll tell you what it was. It was enough for me to beat Miles Teller in the podcast Celebrity League. Take that, Miles Teller.
There you go, Miles Teller.
Take that, Miles Teller.
He's too happy.
He's definitely listening to this. So yeah, he heard that
he might
for sure.
Be. You never know. 19 carries, that's good. 7 catches, that's good. But Matthew, I'm not trying to poo-poo this day. I will just say, though, Trey Carson played 20 snaps yesterday.
Yeah.
And a lot of us were watching this game closely because there were only 2 games in the late game window.
Yeah.
So you saw that, like, Trey Carson was very much a thing, and Jamal Williams has very much been a thing as well. So as great as it was, as amazing as it was, as much as people might want to say, like, he's a locked-in running back 1 going forward, is that really the case for Aaron Jones? As much as we would like it to be?
No, but I think he's...
Certainly the upside tells you it is, right? I mean, the upside is obvious.
Yeah, but listen, here's what he is. He's an every week no-brainer starter. Is he an RB1 versus an RB2? I don't know. But like if you have him on your team, you're starting him, you're not getting cute. Even when Jamal Williams comes back, yes, Trey Carson played 20 snaps, but Aaron Jones played 42. Okay? And here's the other thing.
But I'm saying, you're relative to guys like Fournette, McCaffrey, et cetera, that are playing every snap. That's why it's a little bit alarming.
I understand. But like in his last 10 games with at least 10 carries, Aaron Jones now has 14 touchdowns. And listen, it helps when you get a 4-touchdown game. That, of course. But look, he's got 10 goal-to-go carries so far this season. He scored on 7 of them. That's 70%. I did that math in my head. I don't want to brag, but literally 7 of 10 is 70%. The NFL average is 33%.
Can Kyle check that?
That 7 of 10 is 70%.
Confirmed. Okay, confirmed. We're good.
Thank you, Thirsty Kyle. Nice job there. When do you leave for your wedding, by the way?
Thursday after the podcast.
Thursday after the podcast. All right, Thirsty Kyle getting married.
I would have checked out a month ago.
Well, you did. FYI. Like,
good point.
Right, exactly. Like, I don't know, for like 6 months prior to your wedding to the lovely Chapin Duke,
right.
You were like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Chapin takes the field, chapintakesthefield.com, blah, 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 blah.
Website. Great website.
Great website. Yeah. Great website. Do we have a Thirsty Kyle takes a sip or something website?
I think it's Marisa quenches her thirst as well.
Oh, yeah. .com?
Yeah.
Pretty good. Anyway, so yes, Thirsty Kyle, very excited for him wedding this weekend. Meanwhile, this dude, Aaron Jones. Yeah, what do you got?
Aaron Jones on my War Room team. Okay.
Yeah.
We have 89 more points than the 3rd highest scoring team in the league. Okay.
That's so brutal.
We are number 2.
So brutal.
All right. 89 more points than the next highest scoring team in the league in a 16-team league, and we're second by 89 points, and we're 2-3. How does this happen?
Hang on. I got something for you.
May I?
Bitterberry.
All right, we got to keep going here. Tell me about Aaron Jones. No, this is.
What is that? That's the. Here.
I think this guy might have a battery. It's not quite.
That one might need...
I think the battery is dead in this guy. The spicy tomato.
Oh, that's the spicy tomato?
Yeah, spicy tomato.
All right, well, here, you can squeeze my bitterberry.
Spicy tomato is what you are. You know how you attacked the Packers this week, Matthew?
That's a blast from the past.
That is a blast from the past right there. All right, we got to get moving here on the Packers.
All right, we got to move. Anyway, Aaron Jones is a no-brainer starter here. What's exciting for me is how he's been used at the goal line. They're running the ball. They're running the ball effectively. He is scoring at a pretty high rate, and he already has 3 different games now with 4 or more catches so far this year. Had 2 of all last season. So they are involving him in the passing game, which is something that we expected. Having said that, speaking of the passing game, is Aaron Jones, until Davante Adams comes back, is Aaron Jones the only Packer you can trust starting on a weekly basis?
So you're saying
legit question.
You mean the quarterback that's quarterback 19 right now in terms of points this season?
Yes.
So yeah, here's this. Maybe
5 games, 6 touchdown passes.
Maybe it will change soon. But the Lions next week, Monday Night Football, which should be a very competitive game. The game is being played in Green Bay. You like these games after that, though, right? You go to play Oakland at home, and then you go to Kansas City. Both of those matchups should be favorable ones in terms of what we've seen from those two teams past defense-wise so far this season. So maybe things start to get right. But yes, Matthew, next week, the only set it, forget it, don't think twice about it starter, if Davante Adams sit, is Aaron Jones. It's frustrating. If you have Aaron Rodgers and you decide to stream someone for him next week, I'm okay with the process. The results may not work out. Who knows? But I'm okay with the process.
There's nothing that we've seen so far that suggests Aaron Rodgers is a must start going forward, because of this offense is run heavy.
Yep.
And it's successful. That's the other thing. Like, it's successful. No one's questioning Aaron Rodgers' talent, but we are questioning the fact that, like, they don't need to throw as much. He hasn't 6 touchdowns in 5 games, Field.
Sure, yeah.
And they're 4-1. That's the key. They're 4-1. Like, if you're Aaron Rodgers, if you're number 12, you're like, let's keep, as long as this train keeps rolling this way, I'm good with it.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, like, again, like Detroit next week, you don't feel great about him.
They played Patrick Mahomes tough last week.
If Aaron Rodgers is the only quarterback on your team, you need to add somebody.
I would be adding somebody for this week, a Gardner Minshew type player, because, you know, if the matchup is better or you feel more confident in the stream, I'm okay with it. And by dint of Aaron Rodgers' struggles, Matthew, the wide receivers are unplayable.
I mean, like, listen, I had Marquez Valdez-Scantling on the love list this week. What a brutal call that was. 1 catch on 4 targets, 18 yards. I mean, just
and Geronimo Allison,
we liked him as a streamer. Like,
he had a target in the end zone he could have caught. Like, it was just a frustrating day for the passing game, but not that frustrating because they rolled the Cowboys.
That's a hell of a win for the Packers.
Great win. Matt LaFleur, the only coach amongst the new coaches that has a winning record right now. The second best record is Freddie Kitchens at 2-2. If he gets the win tonight, then he joins that over 500 club. All right, so maybe a potential player to stream for Aaron Rodgers would be Teddy Bridgewater. Maybe. He had a monster day yesterday, Teddy Bridgewater. 4 touchdown passes, 314 yards, 27.3 fantasy points. But, Matthew, it's the Bucs who are an absolute funnel for pass defenses so far this year. And Teddy Bridgewater has been accurate, but he hasn't been prolific. Is there something to this, or is this just like a 1-week blip and you're proud for the guy because he deserves it and he's worked incredibly hard?
You're happy for the guy, but in terms of my rushing out and getting Teddy Bridgewater, I'm not. Like, it depends on the size of your league and everything like that, but I think in a standard 10-team league or 12-team league where it's 1 quarterback league, there are better streamers out there, Gardner Minshew being one of them. Look at their upcoming schedule. At Jacksonville.
Yep.
You don't love that. They're
probably not going to have Jalen Ramsey, but I'm with you. Like,
it's not a great matchup. It's not a terrible one, but it's not a great matchup. You prefer the Saints at home in the Dome than you do on the road at Jacksonville. Then they're at Chicago. You don't love that.
Don't love that.
Home to Arizona, so that's a good one.
But he might not be the starter anymore.
I was just going to say, Drew Brees, we saw the video, like he's already gripping a small football. Like, he might be back in 2 weeks. So, I mean, you just sort of look at the schedule. That home game against Arizona, that's a pretty good game to come back to if you're Drew Brees,
Although
right?
I wouldn't be surprised. Let's say they win their next 2 games. If they're at that point, they would be 6-1.
Right.
It's one of the best resumes in the NFL, whether the best team or not. Play Arizona at home. You say Drew's like, don't worry. Like,
and then because they have the bye the week after that.
Yeah, you have the bye after that. Let's just get you through what will be, I think, week 9 to 10, and then all of a sudden you return at full strength. No concerns about the thumb. But still,
anyway,
hard time justifying this.
Of the next 4 games, at Jacksonville, at Chicago, home to Arizona, a bye. The only one where I would feel like Teddy Bridgewater is somebody
type.
It would be home at Arizona.
I agree on that.
And so So nice to see, especially nice to see if you have Michael Thomas.
Yes.
Nice to see if you have Jared Cook, who came back from the dead. I don't know that I totally buy it.
Undertaker style is great, yeah.
But it was nice to see signs of life from Jared Cook. Alvin Kamara was whatever. He'll be fine. Like,
one bad day. Like, even Superman has bad days, right?
Yeah, and it was still like a passable day. It just wasn't an Alvin Kamara type day.
Right.
Although I'm sure that people because in drafts this year, people had a real choice of Alvin Kamara or Christian McCaffrey. And a lot of people went Kamara, and a lot of people that went Kamara are just like, what did I do?
I know. Isn't it incredible?
What did I do?
I know. Unbelievable.
I could have had McCaffrey.
Oh, you also could have had David Montgomery. Good thing you didn't take David Montgomery that high, because David Montgomery is on your roster but may not be playable right now, Matthew. Yesterday he played just one more snap than Tariq Cohen. Now, they were down big in this game early, as we know, to the Raiders. They ended up fighting back, and they lose the game. Again, great win by the Raiders. 11 carries for 25 yards and a touchdown, 1 catch for 11 yards. I've said this now many times during the season since it started, Matthew. Am I wrong? I just don't see it. I don't see a great runner. Maybe as much as it was made, and I made part of this, of the Bears trading up into the third round to draft him, it's still trading up into the third round. Not the first round, not the top 40 picks, the third round of the draft. Is it possible that at least for this year, the talent just won't rear itself in the way that we hope for?
Yeah, maybe. Look, they're on a bye this week, so hopefully maybe they get some stuff figured out. But look at their upcoming schedule. So they are on a bye this week. You're not using them this week.
Yep.
Then home to the Saints, home to the Chargers, at Philadelphia, great run defense, home to Detroit.
Good run defense.
I mean, like, none of those you feel great about, given his usage. Like, none of those are like, oh, you got to start a running back against those guys. Like, they're like, the Saints and Chargers are like, okay.
Right.
I mean, Denver ran well against the Chargers on Sunday, but like none of those are matchups where you're like, oh, give me everyone you got. So like, he's at best, like the best argument you can make for Montgomery is that he is getting the goal line work. He got into the end zone yesterday. Like, so they've been giving him the goal line work, and he's a running back. Like, he qualifies at running back. Like, if you need a running back, you can legally put him into your starting position there.
Sure, I know.
He hasn't had 70 rushing yards in a game. He's had under 15 receiving yards in 4 straight. Like, they prefer Tariq Cohen for the pass-catching running back. Like, and
it's tough.
I mean,
there's not much to be excited about right now with David Montgomery, especially given the investment. A lot of people were taking Montgomery.
I mean, like, he was a big sleeper for a lot of people, and not for either of us. Like, we liked him, but not like the way some other people did.
Sure.
But he's been as big a bust as there is. I think among
he's
running
up there
backs
for biggest busts in fantasy so far this season.
Been tough.
We know, hey, listen, if you're out there and you started Mike Evans yesterday, we're with you. I'm literally with you. I started him in a league that I play with Chapin as my co-partner of our league team. Like, that's tough right there when your wife is depending on you to make good decisions. And you're like, yeah, play Mike Evans. He's awesome. Got 0. She literally texted me. Chapin spent the day. She was out watching football with friends, but she wasn't necessarily watching the Bucs game closely. And she's like, what happened to Mike Evans?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. He got 0 points, but
let me do this for you, because this is what I do.
Okay.
I save marriages.
Let
me just do this. Let me save your
marriage. It's not really in peril, but thanks.
I know. Sounds like it's a little rocky at the moment, to be perfectly honest. And so I'm just going to say this now, because I know Chapin listens to the show.
She does.
I know.
She watches
so
it,
listen,
live stream.
and listen. So I'm just going to direct the kid right here, Chapin. Feel free to text me for fantasy advice. I'm going to take Field off the hook here. That way you can just go ahead and blame me if the call goes wrong. But just, Chapin, go ahead. I will help your team out. I realize, listen, you love him, blah, 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 blah. Future father of your children, blah, 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 all that stuff. Yeah. Let me help your fantasy team. Like, go ahead. Just feel free to text me, or slide into my DMs. Do what you got to do. Like, let me take Field off the hook here. Let me save your marriage here. That way you can unite against a common enemy if I get something wrong, you see, like, as opposed to her looking at you like, hey, what happened, expert? What happened to Mike Evans?
Right. I appreciate you getting ahead of the curve, though. Like, you are saving our marriage before it's in jeopardy. I like that. That's very proactive.
This is me. I am here for you and Chapin.
Concern level on Mike Evans, though, just to quickly mention this, is like, I get it. It's been 3 games of disappointment, 10 points or fewer in 3 of his 5 games. Not sure that I'm really that concerned, though, Matthew. I know, and I don't know.
Look, under 5 catches in 4 or 5 games this year. You're nervous about that. I mean, so he's been more boomer bust than we're sort of used to as Chris Godwin has emerged. This is what I will say, though. Marshawn Lattimore, and I don't have any stats in front of me, but my sort of sense is that Marshawn Lattimore has shut him down before. Like, he has always struggled against Marshawn Lattimore, or more often than not, he has struggled against Marshawn Lattimore.
We'll check that out. Yeah, I don't recall. I don't know.
That's sort of my sense, and maybe I'm
not doubting you. I would think that sounds right to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I know, like I remember the game he got ejected from, like, and that like, I don't know if that was last year or 2 years ago. The game he got ejected from, I think that was Lattimore, right, Keith? Keith, you remember this kind of stuff. You're good with this kind of stuff.
You're talking specifically about Lattimore and Evans?
Yeah.
And say, because in the column yesterday that Tristan and Matt Bowen do every Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
They get into it. They get into the Mike Evans shutout thing, and only one other time had Evans scored 0 points in a game, and it was against the Saints. But it was the Week 2 game in 2015 where he was coming back from that hamstring injury, and he played some limited snaps. He did get 3 targets in that game, but didn't catch a ball. But as far as the Lattimore stuff goes, Lattimore's lined up on Evans for 43 of 53 snaps. So he did follow him around generally.
A better day for Marshawn Lattimore, who we know at his best can be one of the best shutdown cornerbacks in the NFL.
Field, can I say one thing real fast?
Sure.
I really think that Chris Godwin is going to have more fantasy points at the end of the year than Mike Evans. Is that a crazy thing to say?
It's absolutely not a crazy thing to say. And I mean, there was talk in the preseason. There was talk in the preseason about that who's the number 1 fantasy wide receiver on the Buccaneers. And so I think if you were drafting today, I think there's a very good chance that Godwin goes ahead of Mike Evans.
You're being funny, right?
Oh, I was being 100% serious. Like, I really think Chris Godwin will have more fantasy points by the end of the season than Mike Evans.
I don't think it's that much of I don't think it's that crazy at all. I thought you were being facetious and just trying to like poke the bear a little bit. Yeah, I mean, Chris Godwin's a freaking stud. He's the anchor of my celebrity league team. 14.3, 26.1, 7, 41.2, 31.5. I'd say that's a pretty good squad, or pretty good start, I should say, for Chris Godwin.
Ultimately, you and I have the same opinion of Mike Evans. It's a pass-friendly offense. He's a rock star. It was a bad game. It is what it is. Hang tough with Mike Evans.
Last topic for us today is, did we get clarity on the Chiefs' backfield last night, Matthew? Because the game that they lost, 19-13. And so I don't know. I've picked win of the week is either the Raiders over the Bears or the Colts going to Kansas City against the Chiefs.
Unbelievable win for them.
They are a gutsy team, are they? Frank Reich and Chris Ballard are building something special. They are in Indianapolis.
No, I think they've built something. I was going to say, I think they've built something special. Not that they're built.
Fair. I say a couple.
They're 3-2 with a backup quarterback.
Right.
Like, I mean, like,
multiple playoff wins in a single season, et cetera. That's how it'll be defined, right? Yeah. But they are on the right track in a major way. We are big fans of what they are doing there in Indy. They beat the Chiefs 19-13. Patrick Mahomes is held to 1 touchdown pass. Just an incredible throw last night. Bought time, pirouetted out of pressure. He's just ridiculous.
He is ridiculous. Are you nervous? Just to dismiss this, Patrick Mahomes now has 1 touchdown pass in 2 games total.
Yeah.
Are you nervous and like got a little bit banged up there? Are you nervous at all about Patrick Mahomes?
No, I would say people should know that, yes, he a little bit of a bulky ankle during the game last night. He continued to play, but we'll keep an eye on it.
Clearly limited.
I would just say this, because a lot of people, I would say maybe led by friend of the podcast, part of the podcast, Mike Clay, took a lot of heat this summer for saying regression was possible for Patrick Mahomes, if not likely for Patrick Mahomes. And they're right. I mean, listen, it could change, obviously. He could break that, but he's got 11 touchdowns in 5 games. All right, he needs 3.25 per game to have at least 50 for this season.
Although the counter to that is that he had 10 in 3 games.
No, I know. Totally.
He had 10 in 3 games.
Saying,
through the first 3 games, everyone was just like, regression.
I was part of that, for sure. I'm just saying that Mike took a lot of heat for saying that. And, 11 in 5 games. He could very well do something crazy ridiculous. He's Patrick freaking Mahomes.
I would make a low ball offer. I would try to acquire him because I feel like part of the last 2 games.
Yeah. It would have to be, you'd have to low ball.
Not even a low ball offer.
Not a running back or a wide receiver.
No,
right?
Here's what I would say. Here's what I would say. I would say through the first 3 games this season, Patrick Mahomes was more or less untradeable. That if you had Patrick Mahomes, you're like, I'm not trading him. Like, even though go read my love-hate column from last week where I talk about all sorts of trade strategies and theories and ways to do it, and that you should never, ever say anyone's untradeable. But it would have been very hard to pry Patrick Mahomes from whoever had him in your league through the first 3 weeks of the season, because you're just like, this guy's a fantasy rock star.
Right.
I now believe that it would be possible to trade for Patrick Mahomes. You're still paying a high price, but I now believe after 2 games of disappointing fantasy results, it might be possible.
Might be possible. I still think it's going to be really hard because I'm assuming you'd be trying to trade your quarterback to somebody for Patrick Mahomes.
Your quarterback plus somebody.
And okay. Because if you're going to try to sell them on like, hey, I'm giving you somebody else that would be a
my
quarterback
offer.
upgrade, like rest of the season, he's still the clear-cut number one quarterback, and it's not
If you
close.
offered, and you may say this is a dumb idea, but if you offered Russell Wilson plus something, you offered, like I bet you could get Deshaun Watson for Patrick Mahomes straight up right now. And I would do that. Like if I had Deshaun Watson and I said, you know what, I'm gonna, hey, I'll sell high on, I'll sell high on. Hey, I'm thinking about buying low on Mahomes and selling high on Watson. I bet you people would do that deal. Some would.
Interesting.
Some would. Don't you think?
Yeah,
What do you think? Am I crazy?
Let's do a rest of season board bet. Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes between you guys, because this is what you're basically saying, right? You think Patrick Mahomes will score more points?
That's not what I'm saying.
He wouldn't do it. You think others would.
I think that is a deal that would get done in fantasy leagues. I think in regular fantasy leagues, yes.
Maybe I'm wrong.
People
am wrong.
trade on emotion all the time. I absolutely think that if somebody had Deshaun Watson,
then why would you offer Russell Wilson plus? Like Russell Wilson's coming off of, he's been better this year. If you're saying same logic.
Carson Wentz plus. Carson Wentz coming off of whatever game.
What I was going to say is that, like, if I had Patrick Mahomes and someone offered me Russell Wilson plus something else, then I would consider it. Like, I am simultaneously, but that would make sense. Wouldn't it make sense? If someone offered you Russell Wilson and another starter for Patrick Mahomes, isn't that a reasonable trade? Like,
especially if you have a need at that other area.
Right, like
where
if someone offered me starting wide receiver and Russell Wilson, like that's not outlandish at all. But I don't think it's going to be 1-for-1 in many cases. But the heart of this conversation, Matthew, remains the Chiefs' backfield. Last night, here's in terms of total snaps, 32.
Will Fuller and Aaron Jones for Patrick Mahomes. Let's do it.
All right. Damian Williams, 32.
Yeah.
13 snaps for LaShawn McCoy, 12 for Darrell Williams. LaShawn McCoy had 0 rushes last night. 0 for LaShawn McCoy. Now, he fumbled.
And he had a bad fumble, yeah.
He had a fumble on a screen pass that I forget who punched it out, but a really nice play by the Colts.
Really nice play, but had a nice run after the catch, and then, right.
So do you think we learned something about the Chiefs' backfield last night? Do we have a sense of what it's going to be now since we have everybody healthy and presumably what it would look like going forward?
Here's my my only thing that I feel like I learned is that Darrell Williams is going away. Because I would look back there, and
not?
I mean, like, he's not.
Well,
I mean,
he
didn't
touches last night,
but he was on the field for 12 snaps.
Sure.
And I saw him out there. I mean, like, they used him they like him in pass pro. They like him back there. There's certain packages where I think they like him. So the fact that LaShawn McCoy played only one more snap than Darrell Williams, to me, I'm actually not focused on the touches. Like, the play calls are what they are based on the defense. But like, if you're out there, you're telling me that it was a design, like, let's use Darrell Williams for 12 snaps, but make sure he doesn't touch the ball. Like, no, it's just like how the plays go.
Sure.
Like, the fact is that, like, to me, it's more of a three-headed committee than it was prior to Damian Williams getting hurt.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I also think that, like, so my takeaways would be Darrell Williams not going away, but if for some reason you roster Damian Williams plus Darrell or Damian Williams plus LaShawn McCoy, like, it's clear that I think I would still want Damian Williams in my roster above
if I had to rank them rest of the season, I would rank them Damian Williams, LaShawn McCoy, Darrell Williams.
I agree, yeah.
And I don't think Darrell Williams has standalone fantasy value unless one of them gets hurt.
Right.
I just think his presence is going to drain
on your roster. Yeah.
I think his value is going to drain those two guys.
And if people want to, like, again, despite the fact that they have the Patrick Mahomes has accounted for 1 total touchdown over the past 2 weeks, any of these guys could go for 20, or Damian or LaShawn McCoy could go for 25 points in a given week. There's still a ton of value in the Chiefs' backfield going forward. It's just different than what we expected to be in mid-August. We've got a lot of stuff to get to tomorrow on the show. We've got waiver wires to continue to talk about. Huge game tonight. Keith's Browns. Keith's Broncos, not a team. Keith's Browns against Stefania's 49ers. We've got waiver wire stuff.
Have you guys made a bet?
News.
You guys should make a bet.
Did you guys wager something or no?
We kept it kind of simple. We just said we'd get each other something to eat somewhere. Like we'd go to eat somewhere and pick up the tab.
Okay. All right. Well, should be a fun game tonight.
Did she give you the points? Because when I made that bet with her, she didn't give me the points.
No, we did not discuss points.
All right.
We should have done the points.
We will have a Monday Night Football recap. We'll have waiver wire pickups. We'll have all the latest, potentially some Saquon Barkley news.
And I have some thoughts about my Washington Redskins.
And Redskins venting from our pal, TMR. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
Peace out.
You're in the 06010. Never gonna hustle, in case you didn't know. Matthew Berry, TMR.
You guys go ahead, give me grief for being on SportsCenter for 45 seconds. I think you could do better than me because I don't think you could.
Jailbait.